Welcome to chess, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate you guys very much for stopping by. We just got finished with round 2 for the classical section of Norway chess, and I do have the game Wesley So versus Magnus Carlsen, U.S. champion Wesley So, chess 960 world champion, and world classical champion Magnus Carlsen. It's always nice when these guys get together. They're very strong players. But for all of my people that are coming from the Philippines, I will say mabuhay, maligayang pagdating sa mga chess, ladies and gentlemen. Kapayapaan sa inyo. I appreciate you guys very much. Maraming salamat aking makaibigan po sa nanonood ng aking mga video. Appreciate you guys very much. Anybody who is coming from Norway, I will say God morgen to you, tusen tak. It should be morning there. Yeah. Probably like around 7 or 8 a.m. No, wait. No, it's not. I think it's like maybe 7 or 8 p.m. So maybe good evening to you. But anyways, I appreciate you guys very much for stopping by. If you guys are ready to go, let's take a look, see what we have for this game. So we got D4. We got D5, C4. My favorite beginnings. We got C6. So we have a Slav. Ronaldo, man, that's why I mentioned to you in the comment that you're going to like this game because it has a Slav in it. But we do have knight to F3. We see knight to F6. We got knight to C3. And there are very many options that you can, play in this position. But we do see probably the most solid way to play, which is E6. We do have kind of a branching point here. There's two kind of like camps as far as the Semi-Slav is concerned. Do you play E3 and just close the position up, lock your bishop in, or do you play bishop to G5? Both of them are very legitimate. One is a little bit more tactical. One is a little bit more positional. So Wesley So just opts to just play as solidly as possible. So he goes E3, bishop to G5. It does lead to kind of some possible gambits, where you kind of, give up the knight for 2 pawns, but you have a really strong attack going. So like I said, we do see E3. We got knight B to D7. We see queen to C2. Bishop comes to D6. We see bishop to D3. Castles by black, castles by white, and we do have H6. And personally, since I do play the Catalan quite a bit, this position, even though you are not fianchettoing the bishop, is very familiar to me. So a lot of the ideas and stuff is going to be the same. So, familiar to me. We do see B3, and then we do have the move E5 with the very clear, we're just trying to push this pawn to E4, and we're trying to fork this knight and this bishop. And we have actually reached a point in the game that if you do want to pause the video and see what move white should play in this position, go ahead and do so. Okay, so there are two kind of moves that you can make in the position. Obviously, you have to prevent this fork from coming up. So you pretty much either have there's actually 3 moves. You can either take knight takes E5, pawn takes E5, or pawn takes D5. One of them is by far the best move, and I will be able to go into detail showing you exactly why. But the move in this position is actually pawn takes D5. Because after we see knight taking D5, pawn taking D5, and then we go into these trades here, as you can see, black is strapped with an isolated pawn. And that is what you want to give black. If you do other things, so let's back up here after we saw E5. If you played other ways, you are basically allowing black to, have a correct pawn structure. So if you take here, pawn takes E5, you'll see knight takes E5, knight takes, bishop to B2, pawn takes, and then bishop takes, and then after rook to E8. As you can see, black has preserved their pawn structure. They don't have an isolated pawn, so they are doing much better. You can see it's dead zeros in this position. So you kind of given black what they wanted. So you have to try to give black some type of weaknesses, or some type of weakness in the position. So that is what pawn takes D5 does. So we do see knight takes d5, knight takes d5, pawn takes d5, pawn takes e5, knight takes e5, knight takes, bishop takes, and then we do see bishop to b2. And I mean, you can pretty much either, you know, trade on b2 immediately or go ahead and go queen to f6 and just back up that bishop. Of course, something's going to have to give in that type of a situation, which is what we see in the game. Queen goes to f6. We see bishop taking e5, queen taking e5, rook 8 to c1. And then, you know, 16 moves in, we do see the novelty of the game, which is bishop to d7. There is one game in the database, bishop to e6, and white actually won that game. So, you know, they were able to force that through to a win. It's not the best move in the position at all. So, like I said, we do see bishop to d7, and then queen does come up to c7, you know, putting a fork on this bishop, this queen, and this pawn. So you pretty much have to trade. Queen takes c7. Rook takes c7, and then we do see bishop to c6, kind of locking the rook in there a little bit. But we're not worried because, I mean, a rook is going to swing over probably, and we're going to be trading, so we're all good to go. We do see rook over to c1. You know, we're contemplating maybe giving up in exchange. You know, if we can, you know, kind of win a pawn, you know, then we might be, you know, doing all right. But we do see rook f to c8, so forcing the issue. The rook takes on c8, rook takes c8, and then we do have the king start to come into the game. So king goes to f1. We see king over to f8, king goes to e2, bishop up to d7, offering a trade, which Wesley So does accept. Rook takes c8, bishop takes c8, and then we do have king over to d2. The king goes to e7. And basically, like I said before, you know, black is trying to work on protecting this weakness that they do have. Even though you're going to be coming into the center anyway, you know, you do kind of have to babysit this pawn a little bit because at the moment it cannot push because this pawn is in the right spot to prevent its push. And so white is going to try to, you know, maneuver their bishop somewhere like this to try to put as much pressure on this pawn as possible. See if you can come up, you know, with some type of, you know, logical attack. So the king does go to c3. We see king to d6. We got b4, b6. King goes to d4. So, you know, the king is in proper place, you know, opposing this king and attacking this pawn. So like I said, I mean, the bishop is probably going to direct this way or direct this way to try to put, you know, a lot of pressure on this pawn. So we do see a5. We got b5, bishop to d7, and we do have a4. So everything is like completely locked on this side. So we are good to go. We do see bishop back to c8. We see f4, f6. We do see f5. Bishop to b7, we see g3. So kind of what your mix trying to do is put a lot of your pawns on squares that this bishop cannot attack. But then we are also trying to, you know, slow down these pawns as well on the black side. So bishop comes to c8, we see bishop down to c2. Bishop goes to d7, we see g4. Bishop to c8, we see bishop to b3. And we actually see a repetition of moves. So bishop goes to b7, bishop to a2, bishop to a8, bishop to b3, bishop to b7, bishop back to a2. And it is in this position that the players do agree to a draw. They're basically going to repeat. You know, you're going to drop the bishop back and the bishop is going to come back up. You know, so we are looking at a threefold repetition coming up. But you are able to, I believe, after move 30, offer a draw. But that does bring us into an Armageddon type of game. So I'm probably going to go ahead and cover that game when they do get done with that. It should be coming up at some point here. So I appreciate you guys very much for stopping by. Sorry it wasn't like, you know, like a very exciting game, but hopefully we do have one of the the Armageddon game is basically designed for a decisive result. So we are going to see either Wesley So or Magnus Carlsen win that game. So I'm going to be checking on that to see, you know, what the result of that is or if they've started it yet. And I will be back fairly soon. So I appreciate you guys very much. Pa alam, and I'll see everybody next time.